recording. Doing some necessary little bits of fiddle work here. Moving stuff into the house, and it's been something of a chore to get everything re-put together. Anyway, today is Sunday morning. Sunday morning, 9:11 a.m. How fortuitous, September 15. Wanted to talk for a few minutes about some of the stuff out of the data. I have been, circumstances had forced me to work very diligently to get a bunch of this stuff processed so I can get the servers moved, because we've got another area that the floor is rotting out in my outbuilding. The whole thing has to be collapsed basically and get down to the cement underlayment, and then I'll decide what to do. Circumstances have changed, so the cement floor is not necessarily a real problem anymore. It had been, because I'd intended to use that that building for exercise equipment in martial arts kind of function, and you don't really want to do those kind of things on a cement floor. Even a mat on a cement floor is not good to roll against repeatedly, especially at my age. Anyway, though, so had my adopted grandson out yesterday, and he was helping me haul out a bunch of stuff here and get things sorted and cleaned out, such that we can get on the repairs of this structure. And I was working very diligently the previous couple of days to get a lot of the data processed, ran us into some stuff that I wanted to let you know about, and it also triggered some of my new decisions relative to fixing the house here. Basically, what I'm going to do is to whittle down all the chores that are required, to what is absolutely required to keep the house in a decent shape and adequate. There's a plumbing situation I have to deal with, and I've decided to simply not replace the old shower stall. It's fiberglass. I've dealt with fiberglass all my life as a boat builder. I'm just going to rehab it in place and deal with the plumbing, which eliminates so much stuff. So we don't even have to involve ourselves in construction and all of this around building a new shower. However trivial that is, to come on in and just remove the old fiberglass and put up the material and clean it all out and put down a poly bed and then start laying tile, right? It's not that onerous of an issue, but it has a lot of time-intensive build up to it. You got to get all the materials here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what I need to do is to just get this work done as rapidly as possible, because we're approaching some kind of a change point, okay? So the data sets would suggest that about between 30 days from now, so between now and probably 45 days would be safest. So between now and November 1, so the remaining days of September and the remaining days and all of October are have a very high degree of release language coming out in the data sets. This release language has a plethora, an absolute, I've never seen anything like it, association of nexuses, loci, locations, linguistically around which it is clustered. All of these damn things are so interconnected that it added an additional 18 hours on the crosslink run. Again, something I've got much faster machines now, and the code's actually been simplified, so it works better. And it still took an extra 18 hours, just because of, not only because of the sheer volume of data that I received in this last run. Anyway, though, so not an event, but a period, okay? A period of time is rapidly approaching, and this block of time is going to begin very shortly, like within the next 45 days, according to my data, and my timing is always screwy, right? Sometimes it's dead on. the release language, I was within, we calculated it later, it was on the 13th, I was within 13 hours on my prediction of when the release language would actually start. So, you know, so it can be quite good, but then sometimes it's off literally by a decade, right? But then all the stuff happens. It was just I brought it one decade forward because of the nature of time and this process. The remote viewers suffer this as well. They'll tell you that, you know, timing is a bitch. You do all this kind of stuff to get your timing accurate, and you know, and boom, it works once, and then thereafter it fucks you over. So anyway, within the next 45 days, and so some kind of a beginning that will launch itself with a what we think of as like events, okay? This is where it's going to get really difficult to describe relative to what the data is saying. The data suggests that we are in the discontinuity, that there is right now big movements all around the planet in all these different areas to bring out this, what I call ZPT, zero-point technology, right? Whatever the hell it ends up being called. This is like the space alien reverse engineered, and it is all ontologically based. It comes from a physics that is not grit based. The aliens would laugh at Einstein and all of the physicists that we have on our planet right now as, boy, did you guys blow it. Wow, did you miss it? It was sitting right in front of your fucking face, and you wandered off over in there in that field and built a physics off of looking at a cow's ass. Anyway, so this is part of this eruption of events. It's not only events. Okay, so all right. So Eleanor Roosevelt is famous for she's, you know, wife of president, right? Is famous back in the last century. Is famous for making a statement that says something like. Great minds are interested in ideas, medium minds are interested in events, and lower intelligence minds are interested in personalities. Now, I dispute that statement, right? I agree with that there's this broad categorization you can make of human minds at any given point in time, okay? And a cluster of them, maybe it's, you know, up to 18 or 20% is interested in ideas. Then there's a broader chunk that is interested, you know, of the remainder, about more or less half are interested in events and happenings and history and all this kind of stuff. And then there's another half that's interested in personalities. And I think that has to do with where we all are within our karmic stuff, not necessarily levels of intelligence. So I understand why Eleanor Roosevelt said it that way, you know, because she's an elitist, blah, 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 blah. She's part of that club and sees the whole world from this us versus the rest of dumbass humans. And she doesn't really have a huge ontological viewpoint because she comes from the gritology world. But it is factual to state that we have this division relative to minds at any given time, and you can drift in and out of these things. So, you know, you can be interested in events one day and personalities the next and in ideas the next. But basically, you'll hold to one of these things, personalities, events, or ideas, as a generalized area that you clump your interests into, right? Or from which you extract your interests. What's coming up is going to grab everybody, okay? So the data sets are clearly describing something that will bust open the world of personalities. And then, boom, blow up all of the world of ideas. And it'll do it in a very impactful, a very impactful short period of time. In other words, it will have this blow you up effect, this freak out effect that strikes in a short period of time, no matter where your interests lie, such that we all find ourselves basically more or less focused on the same thing, which is very rare for humanity. in, as I say, in a short enough period of time that it's going to really churn the emotions, especially for the normies. That period of time, my thinking is that it begins somewhere between the 15th of October and the end of October. But it could begin in September for all I know, and it may have already begun for all I know, because we won't be able to really say this until maybe a couple of years after we get through it all. Anyway, a lot of it is going to be involved with aliens, all right? So it's my conclusion that the deep state is really freaked out globally. It's just freaking out, just shitting its pants constantly. It can't sleep. It's taking drugs to get to sleep. It's waking up in the morning to take drugs to overcome those drugs, and it's shitting its pants right then. Then it's eating food. Then it's shitting again, and then it's taking more drugs to try to get through the day. And this has led them to this period of time where they're going to make a great number of mistakes, and their karma also participates. Universe guides, provides and guides, and so the deep state is going to do some kind of pimping of alien language. I don't know that they're going to do their Project Bluebeam shit, right? Although it appears that there's a lot of preparations for that. However, the same kind of preparations that are going on that may be indicating Project Bluebeam, deception, fake alien invasion, could at this stage could also apply to some savvy people working in the background to prepare unsavvy people for what's coming at an officialdom level. So you've probably heard that, like, law enforcement, sheriffs primarily, are receiving handbooks about, alien contact and stuff, right? And what to do, like 13 rules or, 11 rules or 17 rules for, or protocols for how to deal with it when you're out cruising in your Podunk County and you run across a bunch of aliens, doing something, right? And so that's going out now. That could be part of their fake alien invasion, because if they're going to run one, they've got to get the other side to cooperate, to react appropriately in order to hype the whole thing up, right? So they've got all these parts, but they can't tell the other side, the sheriffs, the deputies, the general public, oh, here's your role. You've got to freak out when this happens, and you've got to react this way in order to promote the fake alien invasion. They can't do that, but they still have to have that occur in order that fake alien invasion could be promoted. So, but on the other hand, okay, so that having been said, we know that these handbooks have been put out, but I also have knowledge of other documentation that's being distributed to similar kinds of people, not necessarily restricted to sheriffs, okay, not entirely in the law enforcement realm, but other forms of documentation that does have a series of protocols that indicate they're attempting, the people that are releasing this document are attempting to create or to allow for the creation and management of a decentralized intelligence gathering operation to be self-creating. So this is where it gets a little tricky. This group likely has military involvement, although I don't know that it's backed by the military or anything. It has been distributing documents that are basically saying to these individuals, we're coming up to a period of time where, strange shit's going to happen. When strange shit happens, here's some ways to think about it in a general sense. I think there's like 5 categories there. And then within each of the categories, we would like you to think about responding, and how would you respond if such things occur as, X, Y, Z, these little scenarios that they have for these 5 categories. One of them is, how do we get communications from the field into any form of a centralized authority or management structure for these kind of events when they occur, if the event itself is causing basically a cyber attack or disruption. When the space aliens fly over you, your radio doesn't work, so you can't tell anybody shit, right? And it's just an effect of the electromagnetics that are involved. And so there's this outfit, there's this group that is indeed preparing for this. I have no idea what their level of authority is. I'm not going to even speculate on all of that. I just know that this is the case and that it has reached all the way over to my area of, the edge of the continent here in my very large and sparsely populated county. So there's people that have received that kind of information here. Now, there's also a lot of military movement, which could be part of war. You would expect it to be part of war. Everybody says that the Elohim worship cult is trying to get us into war, all of this kind of shit. They want us to lob nukes at each other, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of the military movements I'm seeing are not, at one level, have other aspects of that they're contributing to. So indeed, they may be, a training exercise for this particular group to see if they can reach these particular goals, etc. But there's other shit going on just with the training group having to haul along a quote, observer and alter their protocols. So there's a lot more database, within my data, there's a lot more of a base for this timing and the assumption that we're going to be dealing with the alien issues out front, much more linguistically in the open and much more within the mainstream in a relatively short period of time. That relatively short period of time, like I say, within the next 30 days, within the next 45 days, we're going to get to the opening of this period. This is part of the discontinuity. I can't tell you how long this period is going to go on because a lot of it is an analysis of the reporting of the data as the potential of the release language, which goes to the state of mind of the individuals. So we may have normies freaking out for 6 months from now over this. And in fact, we all may be freaking out 6 months from now over this, or we may be still in it in 6 months. It would be impossible to tell from the language that I have now. Okay, it could be either, but it's still a very intense point of discussion going on. Okay, so within the, all right, so when the data is processed, I get a view of the data that I've sculpted that puts out linguistic markers and metadata so I know how to judge the appropriate emotional weight of various different things. And I can plot this in my mind in sort of a chart fashion. I can say, oh, there's that association, there are those sets, it's cross-links, and I could draw this out if I wanted, but I don't normally do it because it's repetitive, etc., and I don't really need to look at it. I just need to figure out these individual cross-links and then go to the data, see them, etc. Anyway, so we've got a very large clump of stuff around aliens. The splinter-off effect of that is huge, just giant. It just has cross-links into all different kinds of stuff. Any area you care to name, economics, politics, the migrant invaders, we may get rumors that the migrant invaders are part of this. They're somehow within this, associated with this. We may have an incident where, one of them's out driving around and doesn't understand how to work the car and crashes into a UFO or whatever the fuck, right? I mean, there's just linguistic association popping up that in that sense are not only bizarre, but eye-catching. Okay, so there's a big chunk of data about the effect of this period of time on the Masons, on the Jews, and on the Jesuits. And then to a certain lesser extent, within the religion subsection, there's all this stuff about, the Catholic Church, Protestant Church, churches, evangelical churches. There's going to be some really wild action in some of these evangelical churches during this period of time as they start getting into confrontation in these mega churches over individual views about what the hell's going on, you know, demons or aliens, and maybe they're going to fight about it. I don't know. It's just describing contention that in some instances tears these churches apart. They fracture and splinter up into groups, right? Go their separate ways because they find that their understandings are not compatible. And this is one of those things that's going to be a big issue. So it would be nice to have a unified humanity, maybe, okay? If a unified humanity was directed by a single individual, that would not be nice, right? It wouldn't be nice to be in a dictatorship. It would be maybe nice to have a sort of unified culture, maybe. But a unified culture doesn't really evolve and grow. There's not the contention needed to cause individuation of thought and extrapolation of thought, okay? So, in spite of how it's going to feel for you, I think, it's my opinion, it's my conclusion, that this period of uncertainty that evolves or is derived from the discontinuity and where we're at now and what's going to be happening in these next couple of months, this period of uncertainty is marvelous for humans. It's going to allow us to clarify. It's going to allow us to see shit really accurately. It's going to be ugly, ugly, ugly as we see shit accurately. But it's going to allow us to clarify in our minds who represents what's going on, and so on. But everything's going to be uncertain, okay? So it's going to take us a while to work through all of this uncertainty individually to come to a lot of these conclusions. You'll find a bunch of people that will be out there trying to shovel humans into groups of collective thought, okay? And they're not, they're not necessarily doing this for an evil purpose. So like 107, right? He does not want influencers, or did not. This is last year. This time last year, like almost a year ago, or even earlier, there was some discussion that he was having with various different influencers to try and tone down the alien talk because he's in the political realm and he wanted to keep everybody's mindset on the political. He wanted to keep all the focus on the political stuff, right? Because he's got a lot of work to do and he's trying to do this basically social engineering thing and so on. Now, I think his approach is wrong, all right? I think that that derives from his religious approach, which is a control structure that has control over his mind, and he sees everything from within that structure, and so therefore he thinks that the way forward is to exercise control. A lot of the religious people can't deal with the idea of individuated chaos, especially people that are involved in the Bible, which is all about structure, order, control, pyramidical structures, military structures, the Elohim conquering the planet and making you eat your kids, and but it's all about the matrix of control that is that understanding that backs that religion, which is the practical aspect of that control, but it extrudes out of his thought pattern, so he thinks he has to exert that within politics. And all of politics is that way because it's based on all of these scriptures, which are words written in a book by some asshole, we don't know who it was, and not ever by any god or anything, okay? So all of that's going to go away. The Bible, all of this shit is just going to get the emotional backing for it kicked back out of a lot of people's heads as we go through this period. It could happen a number of different ways. I won't speculate as to what the level of outpouring might be that causes that, and it's going to take a number of years. The whole society is in the process of restructuring itself. This is going to be an ongoing process that impacts other ongoing processes, such that we live in this period of uncertainty and chaos for a great number of years as we go through into sci-fi world. But it's apparently, according to the data, we're getting into the freak out period in terms of frequency, okay, not mentally freak out. That the frequencies are coming out. The whole ontological viewpoint, all of this, is coming out simultaneous to the emergence of the aliens as part of our social milieu, okay? And so it may be that it's going to be the deep state that introduces these ideas. And they may be trying to do it ahead of actual contact with aliens. Or it may be that the aliens show up and say, you know, like I say, you know, your physicists are about as dumb as these turtles. Something along those lines, right? So there's going to be a source for it all that, as I said earlier, is going to be of an order of magnitude of release that it's going to get us no matter what your attention is focused on. Individually, we're all going to be responding no matter whether or not you give a shit about some celebrity, or whether you care about some set of events, or whether you care about some ideas. We're all going to be involved, and it's going to be a less than calm period of time. So there are things you can do. The outshoot of this could be a fake space alien invasion, or it could be real contact. It's not possible for me to determine from the linguistic clues I get, right? And it could be either. In both cases, there are elements and aspects of danger to be aware of, right? The handbook that went out to the sheriff says, you know, take pictures, you know, call your supervisor if you can. If you can't, back your car up until you can, et cetera, right? All these that are basically warning these individuals. The sheriffs, the military police, you know, federal police forces, all different kinds of people, emergency management people got this handbook, and it's all saying, you know, there's for sure indicated, or for sure history of damage to human personnel humans who were working as military personnel who came in contact with these vehicles, and the damage is severe enough that you need to be aware of this. I'm paraphrasing, I haven't read it. That you need to be aware of this and don't do these following things. So we're actually getting up to this level of exposure, and this level of exposure, as it would have to happen anyway because of the discontinuity, right? If you got people out there inventing and producing zero-point energy devices, some of which can fly, because, you know, it's just the zero-point energy generator wants to levitate anyway. Just wrap an RV around it and plug up all of the holes so it's airtight, and off you go. So if people are doing that, then we're going to have to, that's going to upset the physics to the point that the ontological viewpoint must be examined, and that we get rid of all these gritologists and their, their cow anus view of the world. So that would happen anyway. This is, I'll basically stop now. This was the point of this little bit was to get your awareness for this. There are things you can do. I'm quite convinced that because of the science involved behind it, that if you wear shungite, you eliminate and it's touching your skin. It's a strange material coming from a meteor crash in Russia eons ago. And if you wear it touching your skin, they don't really penetrate. And it'll reduce, you can test it yourself. You can get an EMF meter, have some form of an electric energy source, put the shungite between the meter and the energy source, and boom, down go all the readings, down to virtually nothing. It has an even enhanced effect when it's touching human skin, but attempting to measure that becomes very, very difficult to get an accurate scientific reading, okay? And I won't go into the details. No point in bringing those out. Anyway, watch out for the secret societies. They're going to be the Masons. They're going to be participating in this. During this period of time, you may want to really up your meditation work and your Jedi mind trick studies, all of that kind of stuff, right? It would behoove you to be as psychic as possible as we get into this period, to be as aware as possible of the frequencies that you're encountering, and the psychic level is one of them. I think that's it. I think that's it. Also, now that is a whole nother discussion. So I'll get into that at some other point. Okay, but basically that's it. Just a quick little video saying, you know, we're in it now. We're in it now. They've dumped us into the stew pot. It's about to be stirred. So, you know, grab your hunk of carrot and hang on.